because I want to come. I think it's a much more urgent and immediate problem for Dennis to give us some other information about how parents can cope with the situation as at present. Insofar as, for example, I am told, Dennis, that quite apart from all these esoteric drugs, pot and hash and all the usual things, for example, the mixture which they make out of drink now, would you tell us something about that? I'm talking about cider and stuff like that.
Well, of course, we've had the cider parties with us for God knows how long, but it's no longer now the cider party on its own. It's usually maybe the mother's Valium, for instance, or Librium, taken from the home with it. Disprin is even used. There is this drug orientation, if you like. Youngsters are mad to use some type of a tablet or other with the drink. Even in the public house, it's not sufficient to have their pint or their pint of Guinness or whatever it is. They will add a tablet, either a Disprin or something, because somebody somewhere has told them it adds to the effect. I don't know whether it does or not, but they have been told this. And incidents with cider parties and what perhaps there is a need for an education centre, if you like, for these young people to give them the hard facts of this.
We've grown up with the impression that cider is a fairly harmless kind of drink, but in fact now it's not.
I would bluntly call cider loony soup, even on its own. I would refer to it as...
Even on its own?
Even on its own, not to mention putting it with other drugs, you know.
So in addition to the cider then, what are they mixing with it?
They're mixing the readily available drugs like Librium, Valium, even Disprin.
And what effect does this have on them then?
It seems to perhaps make whatever they're taking more potent, whether it's in reality or whether it's psychologically or not, I don't know. But even youngsters now taking their Guinness at certainly around the average 18-year-old age group, they are inclined to mix even the barbiturates prescribed from their parents. And a lot of youngsters do not know that this is a fatal mixture, barbiturates and alcohol.
Yeah. Freddie Forsyth, I notice you're sitting there quite quiet, and I'm quite certain you've come up against drugs somewhere along the line in books or research or something.
Not very much. I mean, I've obviously seen them in the Middle East mainly, extensively used. We're talking about the apathy syndrome. Just a historical note. For 5 centuries, the Arab world was at the pinnacle, architecturally, socially, culturally. They virtually invented algebra, made gigantic strides in astronomy, and then discovered hash. They swept out of Saudi Arabia and reached Morocco in 100 years. It was quite a conquest. They took Spain. They got as far as Tours in France. They damn nearly defeated Charlemagne. When they hit hash, in 100 years, they went back to a fly-blown, pestilential coast.
Peaceful.
Peaceful? No. Sorry. The Barbary coast was not a peaceful coast. Christendom rose from about 1350 onwards. Permitted alcohol, no access to soporific drugs. And Christendom eventually ended up virtually ruling, through one empire or another, all the people who were on opium in the Far East, cocaine in South America, and hash in the Middle East.
Absolutely right.
That kind of takes care of that, doesn't
sure,
it? Well done, Freddie. I knew you'd have something to say about it. Okay, I'll give it another 5 since people seem to be interested. Another 5. All right, but Morgan, you wanted to say yes.
Dennis mentioned a lack of education, and I was wondering, do people like the Guards and so on get enough support in the schools in terms of educating young people about
Well, I know Dennis is doing a series of talks to parents and
but he
around
seems
schools.
to be really a loner in that regard.
No, there is a Health Education Bureau which have a good programme for healthy living and attitude to life, etc.
All right, yes, gentleman down the end of that row, yes, you wish to speak.
Just if I could say a few brief things. We've talked at some great length. Various opinions have been put forward regarding what has been termed by American scientists the amotivational syndrome, which is a loss of incentive, lack of incentive. I would remind the gentlemen who've been so opinionated on it that the matter has been looked into extremely extensively in surveys carried out in the States. In the 1975, one report was published, and its title is probably a guide to the kind of attitude that the survey took. It was a US congressional survey. It said marijuana, a symbol of misunderstanding, and it knocked on the head totally conclusively any suggestion of the amotivational syndrome, and it was a complete roundup of all available scientific research. I have a book here.
Would you put that in plain English for me?
What I'm saying is that there is no scientific evidence to back up what has just been said on
By
that.
Freddie Forsyth.
That all the surveys which have been carried out by a large number of governmental institutions over the last few years do not support that. And they go back, indeed, as far as about 1888 to an investigation in India.
Do you mean there is no apathy, there is no dropout,
There is no scientific evidence to show that.
Well,
It is a pin.
millions of unhappy and bewildered parents would contest that fact, buddy.
Listen,
Because I live there.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the business of making my personal opinions known.
You just have.
I am giving you proven facts that have been analysed by eminent scientists and people who are far better qualified than you and me to make opinions on
I
this
am
matter.
saying that the
And
unhappy and bewildered parents
you
are
can make your
qualified to
own
state
opinion.
their fact.
You can stand there, and just because you are Rod Taylor, you can make your opinions known and possibly make them more credible than myself.
Well,
That
it's
does
not a
not
joint for
mean
you.
that you are right. I am just quoting the evidence that is available. I'm sorry, you can come and read these books. I have them here after the show if you don't believe me.
All I'm saying is
Okay, son, yes.
those books make no difference to the unhappy and bewildered parents that happen to be bewildered every day in the
You're
United States right now.
You are avoiding the issue in that case by blaming the situation of these parents on a drug when it may be due to other
I'd like to
factors,
say something.
and there is no evidence to prove what you're saying to lead
Brian,
it to a
would you
drug.
make it quick and
I'll
snappy
make a
then,
very
please?
quick
Yes.
statement here.
Yes.
The one thing that I don't want to create here, by any means whatsoever, is to make anyone feel guilty over the subject. It's very important, because one of the big things psychiatrists have to deal with is guilt. Now, if a parent is going to feel guilty over someone smoking hash, then I don't want to know about hash.
What do you mean by that, Brian? I mean,
I explain it then.
Yeah.
Okay. Hash is a minor drug of abuse. If I thought it was any good, I'd be smoking it myself. Now, secondly,
but you are totally convinced that it is harmful. Is that what you're saying?
It is not anywhere near as harmful as opiates or barbiturates, anywhere at all.
All right.
Possibly, I couldn't really say. I went to a very, very long survey on alcohol versus cannabis to make that statement. But I would say that it's this much. If I wanted to get on in life, I wouldn't smoke cannabis. If I wanted to get on in life, I wouldn't become an alcoholic.
Okay.
And so on.